Playing copycat. The zeitgeist isn't specifically religious in nature. I'll give you an example that might seem funny. I don't use antiperspirant. That's right, never. And I happen to ride a bicycle to my job every day. Pooh, you stink, I hear you cry. Well, deal with it. Did it ever occur to you that when you expend energy physically, your body is supposed to sweat, and there's a physiological reason for this? Have you ever considered that it's probably detrimental to your health to prevent an area of your skin from doing what it's designed to do? No? Well, think about it. If you're going to use antiperspirant, do it for a better reason than merely noticing that everyone else is using it. Kids have a sweet tooth. Nobody much objects to giving sweets to a child as a little treat once in a while. But have you ever stopped to consider what sweets are? Often they're a lump of chemically treated sugar. Did you ever stop to consider that humans were not meant to ingest artificial chemical substances as food? The fact is, there is no nutritional value in artificial flavorings whatsoever, and their only purpose is to fool the brain into thinking, hey, this is delicious. Did you ever think that maybe, just maybe, it might not be good for a young developing child to eat this junk? So why do we give children these things? Because everyone else is doing it, so it must be okay. On the same theme, a child reaches 14 and the dentist says, aha, you've got some nasty tooth decay going on in there. 3 fillings should clear that right up. You would think the penny would drop when we see that we're having dental surgery done on children. Let me say that word again with emphasis in case it slipped by unnoticed. That's surgery, folks. We're doing surgery on children, and we don't bat an eyelid. Something is very wrong with the world when nobody senses the abnormality of a high percentage of people needing surgery before they reach adulthood. We all know that nobody with any sense would hand a cigarette to a 5-year-old and say, there you go, Pete, light up. And yet we give them sweets without a second thought. Why do we think this is normal? Because we're constantly looking at society around us to tell us what's normal, to tell us what's right. What is normal life? Normal life, according to the zeitgeist, is whatever the majority around you decide is normal life. We might like to think we're so much more civilized than the ancient Romans who clapped and cheered at the gladiators battling to the death, all in the name of sport. But the truth is, if you lived in those ancient times, you would more than likely have had the same value system as the people around you, because most people get their values by copying those around them. They are sheep and they follow the herd. Only when you start asking questions, only when you start thinking again, can you see things for what they really are. I am only scratching the surface with these few examples. I will expose even more serious things later in the book. Suffice it to say, here in 21st century Western civilization, we haven't reached any sort of pinnacle of enlightened behavior, not by a long shot. Unlearning the lies. Our big problem is that we have all been conditioned to believe certain things. It happens from the cradle, long before we have any ability to think for ourselves. For some people, it lasts until the grave. For others, who decide to do their own critical thinking, that thinking often starts too late, when they have already made certain assumptions about life. One assumption might be the Bible is the Word of God, or it might be the physical universe is all there is. Those assumptions then guide their thinking from that point on. When you ask yourself what life is all about, and you start off with certain assumptions already made, what hope have you of finding the real truth? Those assumptions will immediately dictate your sense of what's possible and impossible. Worse still, your assumptions may be so subtle that you're not even consciously aware you are making them. Shortly, I'm going to go very deep down the rabbit hole on this point, and it's going to pack a few surprises. It may be tempting to think that there's no hope of finding any real enlightenment in life. When you look at how many different belief systems exist in the world, and how many people are certain that their way is the one true way, who the hell is this guy Darryl Sloan to think he's found it? Well, I haven't found it. Enlightenment is always a matter of degree, and there is no finish line in the quest for truth. You would have to be omniscient for that. It would also be a miracle if nothing in this book needed revision in a few years. If I'm truly open-minded, the things I learn in the future are bound to cause me to reassess some of what I'm expressing now. But that's the joy of learning. I'm merely one of many voices heading in a particular direction that seems right. As we all individually search for truth, that search is taking us somewhere, however slowly it may seem. Some may say everyone has their own beliefs, and use those words as an excuse to stop searching. They feel that the degree of conflicting information across the globe is so colossal that any true enlightenment is unreachable. But it's not the difficulty of the quest that ensures failure. It's only this attitude of playing the victim that sabotages any possibility of progress. My personal search was never a journey going round in circles. Even when I look back to when my beliefs were certainly wrong, those experiences taught me things, helped me to eventually move forward with a clearer understanding. Here's one insight to help kickstart your mind out of the victimization loop. If you begin the search with the wrong set of assumptions, you'll reach the wrong conclusions. I would suggest that this is the underlying reason why the belief systems of the world are so diverse. It's why the Christian is so sure of his faith and the atheist so sure of his disbelief. When we develop critical thinking in the latter part of childhood, we may start to ask questions and entertain doubts about some of the things we've been conditioned to believe. Rarely do we ask enough questions. Unless you reassess everything, and in the next few chapters you're going to see exactly how much I mean by everything, you haven't a hope of finding the truth. If you assume at the outset that the basic view of reality you grew up with is on firm ground, then you unwittingly booby-trap the quest from the first step. Instead of seeking the truth, what many people do is seek to defend what they already have, and what they already have may never have been given enough scrutiny in the first place. When we hear challenging information, we so easily perceive it as a threat and gravitate back to what we already believe. But we are not gravitating to the truth, only to the familiar. If you want to learn the truth about life, first begin by unlearning the lies, by questioning the zeitgeist and leaving no stone unturned. That's what makes this approach different from so many belief systems claiming that they are the real representatives of the truth. How many of them skip the part about unlearning?